Hey guys, MCU Collector here with another figure review. Next up is the Hasbro Marvel Legends series Disney Plus Wave 4. This is classic Loki from the Disney Plus Marvel Studios series Loki. So here is an interesting one. He comes with an additional head sculpt, which is pretty cool. So the plastic-free packaging is presented a couple of odd ways of how they package things. So here is the additional head sculpt, and it's surrounded in cardboard because those horns are pretty damn thin, and I'm a little worried about those. So they packed it like this, surrounded by cardboard, so you know it kind of protects the head sculpt and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. But looking at the package, we get a look at the classic Loki figure. We got the show logo there. Got Richard E. Grant promo artwork kind of in the background. There it is on the side. Here is the Konshu Build-A-Figure. We've looked at the Zombie Scarlet Witch. We looked at He Who Remains. We're on to classic Loki. Big Bad Toy Store this morning just shipped out my Jimmy Woo, my Howard the Duck, and Red Skull. Next video after this will be the Zombie Iron Man. Looking at the back of the package, we get the 3D render of stuff. So we have here Loki, and you can see the additional accessories that he comes with. So we have the figure, you have those green magic spell effects that come with every figure that uses magic or whatever, or fire. We get interchangeable hands, which look really cool, and then a second head sculpt. You see he has a leg to Konshu, which is the second leg that I have. Loki logo up there at the top. Enough of the box. Take a look at the figure. It comes wrapped in tissue paper. Normally I would already have it out, but it's interesting. Notice that his head is turned because that is how they packaged it in the box, so the horns don't get all messed up and stuff. And so first, looking at this figure, and holy moly, this is an interesting one. This was my second most look forward to figure, and having it now, looking at it, it always looked funky because of this big old yellow like diaper piece. They just did it all weird. Now having it in hand and looking at it at Comic-Con, it looked pretty cool, but having it in hand, this dude looks funky, man. The body shape is just really odd. These feet are definitely weird. It's kind of crazy. I don't know how I feel about it right now. It's not exactly kind of what I remembered or what I hoped. And I think part of that is maybe because the smiling head sculpt is kind of funky. But this, straight-faced, relaxed head one definitely, I think, in my opinion, looks a little bit better. So he's just kind of crazy looking. Here's the accessory bag. Take a look. I have to open that. We have the other leg to Konshu, and that's going to be a gigantic Build-A-Figure because look how tall that leg is. So I'm excited for that. These magic effect hands, these things are awesome. Holy crap. I really like these. Let's zoom in. Yeah, these are really nice. Look at how those look. So the yellow is painted over the translucent green, so you can see the green kind of coming through, but that's okay because when you have kind of that magic effect, it kind of seeps through the hands. Looks kind of cool. Again, we get these pieces. These we see over and over and over again. In fact, Zombie Scarlet Witch has these same ones. Ghost Rider, the retro Ghost Rider just came with these, so it's pretty crazy. But yeah, interesting looking figure. Let's get in for a closer look at it. Okay, so here we go with a closer look. I see the likeness to Richard E. Grant right there, spot on. As we look straight on, and not 100% there. There, I see it again. It's kind of those angled looks. You really kind of get a feel for it. Looking at the helmet, we see some marbleization. At first, you can kind of be like, oh, that looks like part of the design of the helmet. It's definitely not, because it's kind of all over the place. That is definitely the marbleization, the fill lines of the plastic molds there. As you can see, it's funny that these are kind of actually opposite sides. Interesting how that worked out, right? Yeah, it's actually really interesting. They put in this, like, it's how they apply the paint on certain things. It looks like kind of how they do the photoreal digital print. That's kind of how it looks on some of the areas of the figure. So we get this wildly thick cape, as you can see here. It's all wrinkled up and stuff, but it is super thick. So there's like no pliability to it whatsoever. But they add in some dirt and grime because he's been stuck in the void for a pretty long time. We'd say we don't really know exactly how long, but kind of, along the collar piece there, along the back here. And I have it pretty bright. Might be a little bit hard to see. Me darken this up a little bit for you guys. So looking at it there, you can kind of see throughout the figure we get a lot of that going on, especially in the collar and it all looks really good. But here's the figure. He's got super small feet, man. It bugs me when they have too small of feet. I'd rather them go a little bit large because it provides the stability of the figure when standing. Looking at the figure again, super weird proportions. Like, we got these very thin, skinny legs, and then look at the body. As you can see, the body's got a little bit of build to it. It's not big, it's not fat, but the legs are very thin in comparison, so it looks weird. So you have this diaper piece, which I thought was just going to be like a rubber overlay, and that's why it looks so large, but it's actually not. That's actually just part of the sculpt, and they just went really big with it, I feel. So it's kind of odd. And then here on these upper parts of the legs, so the yellow tights, that is actually sculpted. So that yellow line, yes, it's painted, but there is a sculpted line there, so you know that that's kind of there. So what looks weird is you have this large piece, but then these leg pieces are just so small. I think these hip pieces should have been a lot bigger, and the legs should have been a little bit wider, and I don't think it would have looked so odd. But then you go to the upper part of the torso there, and it definitely gets smaller. So it's just proportionally a little bit weird, and then the arms are pretty thin. It's kind of funky. Now, you know, if you look at classic Loki from the show, does it look accurate? Yeah, pretty much. But still, I think when it translates into plastic form, it doesn't look as natural and just comes off a little bit weird in all honesty. But yeah, getting a look at him, there we go. And then another weird thing is where the feet are. You know, the feet are very thin, and then they wanted some of that hinge to go up into the boot, but it's very recessed back in there, the hinge, which is odd. We don't usually see that, so that's definitely a weird design choice. Usually that hinge is right up against the edge, so you don't see like a major gap. You know, you would see the hinge obviously, but it wouldn't look as jarring. So it's just kind of weird. But here is that first head sculpt. This is the smiling one. This one looks pretty good. I think the other one looks better. We're going to pop this one off. You can see it is on a dumbbell joint. Does this cape come off? It is glued on, so that's not really going to come off. And then let's put this head on there. I'm being careful not to mess with the horns because I'm scared they're going to break. And I really don't want to break those horns. And that head does not pop on easily. Just kind of force it on and push down on it, but it does not pop on. But I think that looks really good. Richard Grant. Not perfect. There it is. There it is. It's those angles, right, that come off looking really good. But yeah, I think that works. You know what? Now that I look at it, I think the smiling head might actually be. I think I might actually like the smiling head sculpt a little bit more. I'm not sure. You guys let me know down in the comments below, which head sculpt do you actually like? Because I'm not sure which one I'm going with now. At first, I was thinking this one for sure, but the smiling one might be growing on me. I do think this actually has a little bit better of a likeness to the actor as opposed to this one. But they're both pretty good, just not perfect. One other weird thing that I want to point out is because the way this is sculpted, so this collar piece, so that yellow of this line here is actually, they didn't sculpt it right there because that's where the collar piece was going to come down and glue. So if it's just off ever so slightly, it looks a little bit funky because there's no yellow underneath there. It's just kind of the design choice because this collar piece should actually be a separate piece. This yellow should have continued all the way up in the actual real world costume worn by the actor. So it's just weird that that's kind of the route they went. Why not still just do it and then just have this glued on over it? You could still make it look semi-flush, even though it's not even all that flush now. Just a little bit odd. But let's go ahead and zoom out for his articulation. Okay, classic Loki articulation. So we know the head is on a dumbbell joint, so we're not going to get a whole lot of looking up or a whole lot of looking down, unfortunately. So that is as high as he can look up, and then looking down, again, not really a whole lot. So that kind of sucks. But you know, you get some crazy ass pivot going on in the neck. You get a full rotation in there, of course, as well. Let's see, the arm can go straight on out like so. The cape does not affect or get in the way, but if you want to do a rotation, the cape is definitely going to get in the way and kind of prevent and block that. You have an upper bicep swivel in there. We get a solid double jointed elbow that is pinless, so that much bend at the elbow. That works out really well. Wrists swivel, and they do hinge. We have a horizontal hinge, and he has just kind of these open hands because, you know, at the end where he's doing glorious purpose, right? And he has his arms out and his hands. You would put the green around his hands and stuff. That's kind of what they're there for. But all the wrists, again, have that standard horizontal hinge there. We have an ab crunch on this guy, so he can crunch forward actually really, really far, which is great. Crunching back, though, is going to be a problem because the cape's going to get in the way, but that's okay because look how ugly they made that cut in there. Yikes, that is bad looking. Really bad. So you're not going to want to hinge that back at all. And then we have a waist swivel in there. Legs go out that far apart. That is actually pretty good. He can't kick forward that far. Not the greatest. Actually, no, you know what? That's pretty good. Going back actually goes back quite a bit, as you can see there. You have an upper thigh cut in there. Double jointed knee, which is pinless, and it is a little stiff, so you want to be careful there. So that much bend at the knee. Hey, do we have a boot swivel? There is no boot swivel. Even though it looks like it's a separate piece, there is no cut in there to swivel unless mine is stuck. But no, it looks like they are not swiveling at all. Foot hinges all the way down, as you can see. You get a solid hinge up too, because that funky looking hinge. Ankle pivot and peg holes at the bottom of the feet. And again, he's got some tiny ass feet. So there is classic Loki, and his body proportions are really weird. These legs are just funky at the hip, so it's kind of odd. Okay, and here's classic Loki next to Sylvie and the TVA. No, I guess the other one would be the TVA Loki. This is the just Loki from Loki. You know, this is kind of the final episodes and stuff, how he looks without the TVA jacket on. And this works out well together. Now, one thing that we did not see in the show, and I didn't bring out Mobius. I guess I could have brought out Mobius to see how he looks with classic Loki, because I think they were kind of in a scene together, perhaps, right? What we don't see, though, is He Who Remains with classic Loki, and there is a size comparison for you if you wanted to see. They are about the same height, so that kind of works out. But to throw in another comparison, this is a figure that I think a lot of people probably aren't aware of and definitely don't have, as it was a Walmart exclusive for the first Avengers movie, not officially a Marvel Legends, but then was re-released in the Hulkbuster Best of Wave in the UK and international markets. So it did get a Marvel Legends official release, which I do not have that one. This is that Walmart exclusive Avengers line release. So there is our not really first appearance Loki, since he was in the first Thor movie, but kind of, you know, a different look to Loki that's kind of more comic book inspired, whereas, you know, we didn't get a Loki for Thor the Dark World, which would have been cool. Damn, I wish we would have. I would like to get a lot more Loki figures, but this is, I guess, the closest that we'll have to a comic in terms of the main Loki in the MCU, even though this technically isn't the main Loki, but it's now the main Loki, even though it's a different Loki. It's all weird when it comes to variants. So, yeah. Classic Loki is super comic book inspired compared to the other ones, and you know what? I love it. I think it looks great, stands out. It's very different from what we usually see. I'm all for it. You guys let me know in the comments below what you think. The wave so far: Zombie Scarlet Witch, Classic Loki, He Who Remains. I'm really excited for this wave, even if there is a lot of what if. The zombie ones, they do look pretty good. Scarlet Witch grew on me. It's definitely better than I thought when it was first announced, but still the live action stuff is really what it's all about for me. So the best two figures in the wave for me were always going to be He Who Remains and Classic Loki. So I'm happy to have them pretty early compared to the other figures. Yeah. I'm really liking it. Loki, again, was my favorite Disney Plus MCU show, so I'm glad to see that we're getting some more love and getting some more figures and characters from that show. So I'm really happy. But you guys let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this wave so far? Okay, that is my review of Classic Loki as I try to set up, you know, for pictures and like throwing some green lights, which, depending on how you have your lighting set up, doesn't really work out too well. You know, get some green shining in his face and stuff. But a really fun figure. Again, the proportions are just really weird. Legs are just, I think, too thin. Arms are a little too thin, or the torso is a little too big, kind of wide. How they did kind of this middle section piece. It's just really weird. Aside from that, the figure looks really cool. These effect hands are freaking awesome. They're kind of like spiky though, so when like you have to, you know, get a grip to pop them into the wrist, so you know, be careful how much you squeeze on this hard plastic. But I love the way they look. I think that's really cool. Even these effect pieces work out really well in a lot of circumstances. I'm tired of seeing them because it's just all the time, but I can't deny the usability of them and how much it actually makes sense for certain ones. Like, in my opinion, it doesn't so much make sense in terms of flames, but when we have like different colors for magic effects, like here for classic Loki, it works out perfect. For Scarlet Witch, yeah, it can also, but it would be awesome if Scarlet Witch actually had some effect magic spell hands like this, maybe on a future release, assuming we see Scarlet Witch again in the future. That would be pretty cool, but this classic Loki figure is definitely a plus. It's still one of my favorite figures from the wave for sure, even if it's not as good as I had originally hoped it would be, because again, it's just the proportions that really kill this figure. Because I mean, just look at the hip, it's just, look at that gap in there and stuff. It's just really odd, but an awesome looking figure. And again, I'm glad that we're getting additional ones, you know, with classic Loki coming in. Maybe we'll get a Kid Loki, maybe we'll get Alligator Loki, maybe we will get Boastful Loki even. I wouldn't mind getting a Boastful Loki, you know, but you know, it's still, time will tell if we ever get it. Miss Minutes would have been nice to get with He Who Remains, but we didn't get it. I do have like this 3D printed Alligator Loki here, which would be cool. Size wise works out really well. I got this from MFCT News on Instagram. Sent this out to me, so that was pretty cool, along with Miss Minutes and a dagger and stuff. It'd be awesome if we got those things for the show, but you know, time will tell. But hopefully we get some more stuff from Loki. Hopefully we see a lot of stuff from Loki season 2. I don't know when the show is coming, but I can't wait for it to come, because Loki was by far, in my opinion, the best MCU show that we have gotten. But you guys let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think of this classic Loki figure? Which head sculpt are you going to go with? Smiling or the relaxed face? I think I'm sticking with the smiling one. One thing that I think I forgot to do is actually show a comparison to the comic Loki. And that is a huge, massive size difference. Now, I know people didn't really like the fact that this one was such a large figure to begin with. I think this is the Cap Wolf figure, or the Grim Reaper body. He's quite large in comparison to MCU, so there's just no way that works. Head sculpts, you know, aren't going to swap or anything like that. But again, you guys let me know in the comments below your thoughts on this figure. If you guys are interested in becoming a channel member and joining the MCU Collective, hit that join button. If you guys like this video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.